This is the spirit.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we chose the topic Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Almost.
Almost, sorry. The creative potential of a squiggly line career path. And we chose this topic because we did not always know what path to follow. We both have been pretty much all over the creative place before starting our studio. We've been in graphic design, creative writing, anthropology, set design, copywriting, sound design, and illustration. And like a lot of creatives, we love trying out new things, but where does it all end?
Yeah, and so in our talk, and in parts of it, we're going to give you an insight about our creative journey so far, which at times felt like an aligned collection of derailings, but has proven to be a logical consequence of our curious minds and our love for exploration. We'll also cover our design process as a duo and do a quick, nice deep dive into our daily tools.
So here's a quick overview. We first talk about our squiggly lines. We don't talk about it as derailings, but as squiggly lines because we believe we ended somewhere. Then also about our background, then how we started with 3D, and then the tasty technical stuff.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with going a little bit back. So this is me at 13 with my first punk band. I had slightly more hair than I have now, but it was also green. It was this funny time when you're kind of still a kid, but also pretending to be very big and mean and whatever. So there's still kids' drawings in the back. So this was my first punk band. I then played in a few bands up until a few years ago and started DJing and made beats at 17. Was organizing parties together with friends, started a record label. Then at 20, I always wanted to do more live stuff, so I switched to doing solo live music. I released 3 albums and did a lot of audiovisual shows. My first live show was done with an artist. She's from Vienna, Lina Schubert. She's also a singer. And we did an audiovisual show with an old camera and some analog lights and some gaze. It was a really nice one. So this was this time. And we also did some shows for Soundframe and other events. Played lots of gigs in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, France. Went to the Red Bull Music Base Camp, but I kind of never really enjoyed being on a stage. Haha. So good one. Played myself. And I always felt happiest when I was working in the studio, like really sitting in front of machines, computers, whatever. I pretty much felt like my cat at the time when I was sitting in front of in the studio. So I thought about, okay, how can I make music but still spend more time in the studio and less time on stage? So I started making music for theater and radio plays with my oldest friend, Johannes Wernicke. You're going to hear his name a few times throughout this presentation because he's still our sound designer right now. We pretty much worked for many theaters, Opernhaus Wuppertal, Schauspielhaus Wien, Konzerttheater Bern, and pretty much all major radio stations in Germany and Switzerland. No Ö1 yet. The fun thing is that now I can just have fun while recording stuff. We're doing all kinds of shit. As you can see, most most of it is bathroom related somehow, but I don't know why. But yeah, we tend to just have a lot of fun. And I got to work with text, which I always loved, and different people on different projects, instead of just doing my own thing and just doing my own art, which was quite cool for me. But I was always reading and writing a lot. So 2017, I applied to the Sprachkunst hier in Angewandte and did my bachelor's, and I'm like doing my master's now, right, as I'm speaking here. And I also started working as a conceptor and copywriter for a small firm, for Mercedes-Benz, ING Bank, and some smaller clients, which gave me great insights into the advertising and overall creative industry. Yeah, there's nothing really to see from that time except for me from sitting in front of a computer.
So this is me as a kid. I was always immersed in some creative work or climbing up the walls from my childhood home. And I was really one of those kids that were always drawing. So here are my childhood drawings. I loved colors. My love for nature started at that time. And I really loved animals. So at first, I wanted to be a vet. Then I wanted to be a ballet dancer. This is also my first graphic design on the left for an event I planned with some of my friends. And the drawing on the right is from the time I decided I wanted to be a fashion designer. So Gen Z, I hope you like my original 2000s fashions. Then I found this one particular poster from FM4. This was the first poster that sparked my joy for graphic design. And I also was interested in everything at the time, so I couldn't decide what to do. But I wished I could do something to change the world for the better. So I went into politics. I planted trees. I tried to lure people to feminism with Krapfen. But joke aside, I learned a lot about teamwork, about reaching goals, about fighting for your dreams, and also about project management. Then I had to decide what to study, so I went for anthropology because my grandma had a lot of these geo magazines lying around and I was always reading them. I decided to go into social and cultural anthropology, and that was perfect for me. I could read a lot, and it was like a plate full of food for my curiosity. Then I also learned a lot about research methods and about diving deep into the cultural aspects of things. And research is still one of my favorite parts of a process. And also, I learned to ask the right questions when it comes to a project. But then I finally decided I wanted to do something creative. So I sent Uni Wien a kiss after my bachelor's and applied to Grafische Wien for both photography and graphic design. But I got accepted into graphic design and only landed on the waiting list for photography. So that was my decision. I went to graphic design. So if there are any grafische students here, hi. Yeah, I learned some of the most important things there, which I still use today. So to name a few, I learned about composition, about taking feedback, how to rework things to get the best results. I learned about teamwork and really the basics of a design process, and also about problem solving. But I also unlearned everything about my own creativity towards the end of my studies, which was really sad. So I needed to relearn that. And I was having a lot of fun in the process. So I will show you a little bit about how my style developed over the years. So the first, like the two in the middle at the top are from my teenage years. I always did like very moody, dark fashion illustrations. And then I became a mom quite young, right after die Grafische, and I had to carve out playtime, not only for my daughter, but also for myself. And besides working, that was kind of stressful, but I managed to push through and started to draw again on a regular basis. And at first I drew like random things like these lemons or like these squigglies or my iPod. I don't know if many of you know what that is. It's pretty old. And also like silly things like Hase auf der Nase for my daughter. And then I started to combine like drawings with bigger abstract shapes. And I really enjoyed the combination. And after some time, I wanted to add more sculptural aspects and more abstract compositions, which drew me into photography again. So I was all over the place. I wanted to incorporate this passion for sculptures and still lifes and started to take on set design gigs on the side for a few years. And I really loved it. It's like you really have this hands-on approach. You can get your hands dirty, you can play around and just move elements around. And it also allowed for a lot of playtime. In this project, I made up a whole world for a vegetable that usually sits ages in our fridge, very sad and uneaten and very lonely. And Mr. Celery here got shown at the photography festival Off-Grid Vienna and finally made it out of the fridge. And I also got to do a window display design for a Viennese goldsmith. And she uses wax, which she plunges into cold water. And then you get these beautiful sculptures, but they are like this small. So I decided to take this process and do really big sculptures for her. And she also used them for like displaying her jewelry and just for decoration. Yeah, and then I took this playfulness into set design and prop design. And it's still a very important aspect of the work we do now in No Words, Just Shapes. So these are a few pictures. Yeah, and then there are also some other learnings from that time. Like every millimeter counts, like light and shadow, design principles, also like in the three-dimensional space, then how to combine materials and colors, and how to do compositions of various elements. I also learned to work in big teams on a set, where everyone brings their unique strengths to the game. And I really enjoyed that. Then I also had a very abstract phase in my photography. And this one quickly turned into our first joint project together.
Yeah, so for 3 years, and this is a hint, this is the secret origin story of our studio's name as well. We did a project named No Worries Just Said. It was a photography project, a series of abstract and minimalistic urban photography, I would say, like searching for patterns and compositions very close up. And we found out in this time, just those 3 years, that working together is fun most of the time, of course. And so we started an Instagram feed, posted daily, took a lot of trips, as many as having a small kid allows. But then something happened in 2020 that put an end to all the traveling and going outside and roaming around, and yeah.
2020.
Dun, dun, dun.
So theaters were closed, uni was closed.
Kindergarten was closed.
But we also caught something else besides COVID during the lockdowns.
Yeah, we got heavily into 3D and animation. So suddenly our days that before looked like this, like parenting, copywriting, blah, 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 whatever, all the things you just heard became more like this. So it was basically just parenting and 3D tutorials. And But we quickly realized that not only did we love working in 3D space, we were also able to translate many of our acquired skills into this field of work, especially problem solving and also sitting in front of a computer for way too long. And also, I mean, learning 3D, for those of you who did it or are planning to do it, it can be tough at sometimes because you do have to problem solve a lot, but the community is so awesome and inspiring and great, and there are super helpful people out there, also great tutorials, a lot of free content, and we made many friends in this time. So here's a shout out to inspiring people in the creative bubble in and out of 3D. This is of course an incomplete list, but go check them all out. I will just keep it up for 10 seconds. I will do a countdown and then I will continue speaking. So 10, 5, 2, 1, and go.
So then we founded our studio in 2022. So these are our main tools. We mainly use Cinema 4D, Redshift, Adobe Medium, and the obvious Adobe Creative Cloud, and lots of paper. Our main subject is digital nature, and we like to challenge the understanding of life, or what life is, or what nature is, and we like to explore new visual territory. Yeah, now we will show you a few more projects in depth. This was one of our first projects. It was with a ceramic artist and designer. His name is Florian Tanzer. And he does these very funny vases and sculptures. And we were asked to do an animation for his exhibition at Galerie Steineck. And he pretty much said we could do what we want, which was great.
Awesome.
Awesome. So he makes these interesting ceramics, very odd characters, and he sent us very high-res scans of his work. And we used those scans as textures for the objects we created. So here you can see Cinema 4D, if you haven't before. We modeled out a few shapes inspired by his designs. And then we did a lot of simulations, because we had to try out like the movement and how these shapes could interact. So we also made a few stills. And the animation we will show you next. The music is by Christopher Chaplin, and the sound design is again by Johannes Wernicke, which is Florentin's sound design colleague. So this is the finished animation. Yeah, and here are some snippets of the exhibition at the Galerie Steineck. It was a nice evening. It was very colorful. He even made these. This is Florian on the left. He even made these cocktail vases, so you could drink your cocktails out of them.
Yeah, next project is called Panopticon. It was also an early project and a playtime project, because playtime is super important. It's a series of 9 objects inspired by the mineral exhibition at the Museum of Natural History in Vienna. So yeah, we started with getting a Jahreskarte for the NHM and went inside for many times, took photos and created a mood board, then sketched out different growth patterns and surface textures, and also thought about light and placement. You can see some early sketches of the like placement styles. And then we used Forger and volume builders inside of Cinema 4D to sculpt the base shapes and procedurally shaded them with Redshift renderer. It was a lot of mixed displacements, as you will see in the next slide. It's pretty easy to get stuff out of Cinema and Redshift that looks really, really nice if you just combine different noises, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So these are the final 9 objects, the first 3, second and third. And even though this was a passion project and not client work, it found a place in some magazines, which made us very happy. And it was kind of a dream. Yeah, cool to be the Forward Festival magazine or whatever. And so, yeah, now it was end of 2022, and we're making a wish list for 2023 on the last day of December. And the first one was working with the Vienna Design Week in the next year. The second one was giving a talk. And for the number 3, I think we have about 1.5 months left, but let's see. Yeah, so the next, and yeah.
Yeah, so our wish was fulfilled on 2nd of January, which was kind of like magic because we haven't reached out to them. They just wrote us an email. And they invited 6 design studios for a competition. It was called, what was it called? Rado Moving Materials. So it was for a screening at the boutique of the Rado store on their video wall. And the winner would be announced during the design week, the Vienna Design Week. So we started out with a mood board and really liked, we took a close watch on the watches, on the materials and what their world is feeling like and on the colors. And they also call themselves Master of Materials. So we really wanted to keep this aspect in mind. Then we did a few tests and we decided to go into the direction of a moving sculpture. And we also wanted to do an abstract interpretation of the layering of time and throughout different worlds. And the sound design again was done by Johannes Wernicke. And this is the final animation. And in September, we found out that we've won the competition. Yay. And we got this beautiful flower present.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, the next projects are all collaborations and with designers and different artists, because being able to get a glimpse into someone else's work and expertise is just always very, very fulfilling. So this was our 36 Days of Type challenge in 2023. I recommend to do it, but I also really do not recommend to do it because it's super stressful. For anyone who has done it, you know what I'm talking about. It's basically, for those who don't, it's basically you do one animation or still or whatever related to typography or any font plays for a month or for 36 days, more than a month. And yeah, so we teamed up with fantastic powerhouse graphic motion and type designer Martin Klaffensteiner. And we were able to work with his newly developed serif typeface, MK Shapeshifter. And yeah, I mean, with a name like Shapeshifter, the animation develops itself. But we didn't want to go down the werewolf route. And it was also April and not Halloween time. But we still thought that light as a source of transmorphing energy is an interesting topic. And yeah, we did some mood boards of transforming materials, mold, melting plastics, etc. Sketched out some light rigs and did some tests. Did some R&D. There's some early sketches here, and we thought about how to set this effect up in Cinema 4D properly. Yeah, and here's a little recap of the series that was also done by Martin, which is very nice.
There's no sound this time. Yeah, the next project was a very special opportunity for us because we could work in a large team and also because we could do many things, like almost everything all at once. And it was an exhibition and a performance. So Florentin also did the sound design together with Johannes Wernicke, and it was an interactive audio and video performance. It was called Anna in Peuerbach, and it was by Mia Oberländer, which is an amazing illustrator, and Kommunale Oberösterreich and Shakespeare. And the performance director was Henry Hüster. So we got these amazing sketches by Mia. They are part of her comic, which is called Anna. And it's about portraits of three women throughout 3 generations, and they're all called Anna, and they're all very tall. So we all decided that it was good to grab the aspect of being tall. And so the whole exhibition was very inspired by her comic. These are some sketches and like some Photoshop mock-ups, how it would look in the exhibition. Also, the 3 sky dancers. And at the bottom, you can see the 3 women as sky dancers. And from that on, we developed them in 3D. So here are some other sketches of the trees. First, we wanted to do them like on the left with some flapping plastic thingies, but then we did develop it in a different direction. And here are a few progress videos. So we worked with Procreate. You can paint 3D objects in Procreate, which is really fun. And we also worked with Cinema 3D, of course. And we had a lot of fun doing the different simulations, especially with the sky dancers. And here's a quick recap of the project, where you can see like the animations, but also the exhibition and the performances. And we also had a very special
Thank you.
a special guest at the opening, which was a nice surprise. Yeah, we love working in 3D, but we really missed being able to get our hands dirty when modeling. And yeah, so we started using VR sculpting. It's like using clay in virtual reality, and it's a voxel-based sculpting setup, so you can quickly develop organic shapes, which if you ever have used Cinema 4D, it's not that quick if you want to do sculptures or organic shapes. Yeah, it's you can have high detail, and the mesh is adaptive. Yeah, you can see me doing a small sculpture here. You can just spray the clay, you can add holes, you can add and subtract from the clay, and you don't get your hands dirty at all. And also, the sounds are very awesome.
It's awesome.
And you never want to leave again.
Yeah, so in our playtime, we started creating objects, plant and wildlife, and everything in between. It's called Just Shapes. Every piece is modeled in VR and then procedurally shaded within Cinema 4D and Redshift. And also beyond the fun of this process, it also serves as kind of a artistic practice and enabling us to delve deeper into the aspects of natural growth, forms, patterns, surface textures, and as well as to further develop our own creative methodology. And yeah, so we're going to talk about one of those objects. So we started out with sketches as always, and then sculpting it out in VR. This is, by the way, done with Adobe Medium, which is a free software. It's a little bit limited, but it definitely gets the job done. It's also voxel-based, and yeah, so you can see, and you can make those little cool videos. Yeah, so after the sculpting in VR, we took everything into Cinema 4D and used procedural process of vertex maps to shade, then building the shader, trying out different subsurface scatterings, which means that light travels through the object, and trying out different colors. You can see the laying of noises, and we mostly work with a procedural workflow. I'm going to go into that in the next slide. But yeah, you can see, so we developed some stuff, then we started working around with some scatterings, putting little stuff on there to make it more detailed. And yeah, so procedural shading, just a quick one, for those of you who don't know, normally you can shade either with noises or with texture maps. Texture maps are square format images used for surface textures. You can translate them into different settings, parameters, noises. On the other hand, are non-repetitive patterns. I mean, you can use them in Photoshop as well. You use them in all softwares that can drive different parameters. Yeah, so they don't tile. You can layer them, and you can create endless different combinations, like in Photoshop, basically. And yeah, so from doing it in Cinema 4D, setting up the light and everything, this is a set of objects we did. Here in the middle, you see the one that we just created here.
Yeah, this is another collaborative project. It's called Symbioasis. Yeah, we are going to give you an insight into the collaborative artwork. This photo was done by Doris Himmelbauer, and in this project we kind of built digital ecosystems around the persons in the photos, and we combined like the love for 3D and photography. So on the left you can see the original photo by Doris, and on the right the photo we are talking about today by Christoph Liebentritt. And in the center we always have the sketches for our objects. So we modeled them out in VR again. You can also load like your sketches or reference images in there, and you can just really immerse yourself in this world, get absorbed in your sketches. You can also work with layers, so you can stitch them together, or you can have them separately and work on them separately in Cinema 4D afterwards. Here you can see, I think we're doing a little bit of smoothing here, which you can just spray on the smoothing. It's very nice.
Also, again, nice sounds. Totally ASMR.
Yeah, and you can easily export them directly to tethered computer. So we are bringing them in Cinema 4D again. Sometimes you need to remesh. And then we are building the whole scene in Cinema, starting with the shading. And there it's a lot of like moving elements around, back and forth. So you can see a little bit of our thinking process.
Yeah, so as you can see, first we used we did some basic shading, too detailed. Now we added some smudges, did some tests with the materials, and also fine-tunings, changed colors, a lot of subsurface scattering as well. Then try to get the looks just right, the displacements, everything. You can see a shader node here on the side. It looks a little bit more extreme than it actually is. Yeah, you can see noises driving different parameters here, and yeah.
Yeah, so after this is done, we put it into Photoshop and did some grading and some grain. So this is a film photo, so it has a lot of grain, and you have to merge those together because otherwise it would look like more like a cutout thing. And this is the final image.
Yeah, so I mean, we are lucky enough to be able to do the things we enjoy and share it with the people we like. Do different things throughout the year, which is awesome. It didn't always feel like this, of course, but now it seems a logical consequence, as we said before.
Yeah, but in the beginning it felt like just, oh, why am I doing this again? Why am I trying another thing again?
Yeah.
But at some point it all falls into place, I guess.
Yeah, and also I have to say this again, community is so important. So we started a meetup for motion designers and 3D artists in Vienna. So if you're a 3D artist or motion designer, just hit us up after the talk.
Or becoming one.
Or becoming one, whatever. It's a nice growing group. We meet every 3 months or so. Yeah, just say hi afterwards if you want to join. And also if you have any questions that you don't want to ask us now, but if you want to, you can also ask us some questions now.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
All right. For those of you who have questions that they feel are interesting enough for everyone, now is your time to shine. I'll hand out the microphone. Just show me or raise hands if you have a question.
We are very nice.
I was just wondering, maybe you could talk a little bit, like, do you both do the same things in your project, or does one do more of, like, I don't know, some stuff and another?
It depends. There are times we are both sitting in front of the computer because there is a lot of like decision making and thinking about the colors and what we're doing. I tend to do more of the art direction stuff, and Florentin is kind of more the techie guy.
Render monkey.
But we really have to go back and forth because there's a lot of decision making. Yeah.
But it's also another part why VR sculpting is so cool.
Yeah.
Because you can actually just not sit in front of the computer. So sometimes Lina can just sit in front of the computer and I do the VR sculpting, or the other way around, which is very nice.
Also, VR sculpting is very nice because you can get up and stand, and you don't have to sit at a computer all day long, which is not always the right thing for me.
Hi, I really like the organic component of VR sculpting. I've been to Pictoplasma last year, or this year, I don't know. Yeah, this year, I think. I get it confused. And I saw Yonk there live. It was really cool. I talked to them, and they do as well. And they make these really weird things. I can't even describe the stuff
Weird
that they
characters.
make. Yeah, characters and scenes, and it's all like Teletubbies, but on acid. I don't know. It's really cool. And did you find it through researching them, or do you just like use it somehow someday?
A little bit of both, I guess. I think it always was of interest to us, VR sculpting, but when we found Yonk, we thought, okay, I mean, they're doing very different stuff from us. No, I mean, just in a case of, like, I think for character building, it's also very cool to develop characters in VR. But definitely, I mean, also they also have these amazing videos of them doing it in the studio, and like mixed reality. I love the stuff, and I love the stuff that Young does.
Yeah.
Yeah, really cool.
We also do a lot of like research in old books, like old what is it called, like floral drawings and stuff. I always love to pick through. Also, like the Museum of Natural History is very interesting for that. Yeah, and then we sketch out a lot of stuff, like sketches and sketches and sketches. And sometimes it's just fun to do something, whatever comes up.
It's really nice. You can get very detailed, which is super cool. So you should definitely give it a try if you haven't.
Yeah, it's super fun.
You have. Okay.
Do it.
Yeah, but I really like the more easy access to 3D modeling through it, because it's so, especially sculpting is so very precise, and you have to like mirror everything to work very precisely. I'm not so hard to find words, but yeah, I think that's a very cool, easy access to making nice and fluid shapes, not blocky stuff, but yeah.
I think for product development, you don't want to use it, I guess. You need something precise, but yeah, definitely.
My question was, you said before that everything fell into place someday or sometime, and I wanted to ask when it happened or when it felt like it.
It took a long time. You could see in my background story that I just never stopped doing things, but it did feel good all the time. It felt like a lot of pressure, and I had the thoughts often that I couldn't start another new thing, but I did anyway. So I think it's just doing it. But everyone says that, and it's not that easy, I know that. But yeah, I think if you just keep doing it, and if you find people that also like the same stuff as you do, then sometimes it can develop into something you like or something you can stick to. But it's definitely it's a journey. And maybe in 2 years I will do something else. I don't know.
Please don't.
I won't.
No, for me it's the same actually. Yeah. I mean, I don't have this design background, so for me it was a complete. I had a different approach. For me, it was more the tech nerdy approach that I got into it, but yeah, at 25, I thought, oh come on, so many people I know are now doing their thing, and they did their thing for 7 years now, and they're just doing it in a straight line.
Doing one thing.
Yeah, doing one thing, which is
impossible for us.
Yeah,
so.
which would be definitely impossible. Yeah.
All right, if there's no more questions, I think I'm going to say thank you again for an amazing talk. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you.
See you at the party tonight.
Yeah.